Hello all, Jamie Rodgers here from Jamie Rodgers Crafts, and today I'm introducing you to my brand new Essential Christmas collection. We have 9 die sets in this set, and many of them coordinate with our Essential collection that was released last month. So you're going to be able to build on and create even more with this collection and that one together. Now, if you don't already have a favourite Jamie Rodgers Crafts stockist that you like to buy my products from, do check out the jamierodgers.com website, where you'll be able to view the stockist guide and find your favourite either bricks and mortar or online stockist, so you can support them and get hold of all of these goodies and all of the other products we now have at Jamie Rodgers Crafts, including our dries clear glue, our elite cardstock, our card blanks. The list really does go on, and there's a lot more coming too. So make sure you find your stockist and get supporting them. But today we're going to have a little look through these 9 dies and our 3 stencils. And to be honest with you, if you haven't already bought a cup of tea or coffee or whatever your choice of drink is, might be worth hitting pause and going and finding one, because I have got, I think, about 50 samples to go through with you to hopefully give you as much inspiration from me and our design team as I can possibly give you. I've also got all the boards here with me as well to show you just exactly how these dies are going to cut and what you'll be able to create with them. So hit pause, get that refreshment ready, maybe even a pen and paper, and join me in just a second. So let's start off with die 1. This is our elegant poinsettia petals. Now in this set we actually have 13 different dies, and that's because what we've got here is our inner panels and our separate outside edges. So these ones can literally be used on their own to cut backing plates, or you can nest inside the delicate cut and cut them out to create filigree leaves or petals. Now with this set, the whole idea is giving you the ability to make much larger projects, maybe decorations for a Christmas tree, decorations to go on your table settings, on your crackers, centres of your tables, all of those sort of elements throughout Christmas that you really want to plus and bring something more dramatic to. This is the die set to hopefully help you achieve that. Now I also feel, depending on the colours you're using and the style you wish to build it in, you could potentially use this throughout the year to make different styles of flowers as well. Nothing particularly guides this to be in Christmas. There is an odd star here and there, but then some of the larger petals, for instance, have got no sort of Christmas reference in them at all. So you could really play around with this and create some stunning effects throughout the whole year if you wish to. Now when we come onto the actual demo board here, you can see that I've gone ahead and I've cut out all of the panels using the delicate panel and the outside edge. I've also shown you here how you can cut them just as the outside edge if you would like to. So of course I'm showing you the positive here, but you could also use the negative, the part it's cut out from as well. We then show you towards the end of the board here how they're going to layer together. So we've just used some of our gold mirror card with our polar white elite cardstock, but it shows you how nicely they can be built up in different colours and different ways. You've then got 2 different size circles. Now obviously your petals vary quite a lot in size, so I've given you 2 different centres here for you to build up on top of, so you can add your glue onto here and then attach all of your petals to make your flowers. You've then got your centre element, and of course here is showing you how you could use both of these to actually cut a ring if you prefer. So maybe if you'd like to hang this item, you might wish to cut a ring to hang it onto as well, just to give you a different item to sort of see what else you could achieve with this. Now when we bring these items in and start getting creative with them, there is so much we can do, and I will share some larger products with you or projects with you at the end of the video where I've made sort of box toppers and bits like that. But for quick, simple easiness, I'm going to show you the smaller ones throughout the video to begin with. So on this one, all I've taken is just one of our crackers, and I've built up on top of this with our, of course, elegant poinsettia petals. And I've left these flat, so I've gone for our rose petal pink card. I've cut the backing plates and the topping parts all in the same colour and just built them together. And I've not shaped the petals at all. These lend themselves to being sort of gone round with tweezers to shape them. You could use them with your foam mats and embossing tools. You could use them with your bone folders to round them. You could pinch them up in half to give them more sort of a V if you'd like to. There's lots of ways in which you could shape this flower, but actually leaving it relatively flat I thought worked quite nicely too. Then moving on, let's show you one of the smaller ones. This again is you're working with some of the smaller sizes of the petals, using the larger ones here as the leaves to go behind it. And I've just done this as a little topper to go on top of a box, but it could of course be any sort of present or gift you're going to be giving. You could of course put these onto stems and add them into your trees. You could hang them as decorations on the tree. There are so many ways in which you're going to be able to build these and use them all throughout the year. I think you're going to have a lot of fun with these. Now, of course, as you can see, we have these larger sizes. So let's bring in a larger card box just so you can get an idea and a feel for how you can really go from small, delicate items with this right the way up to really large projects with it as well. So if you imagine this is approximately around about an 8x8 sort of card box, so it gives you that idea of how large you could go with these. And of course you could add in more to infill the gaps if you would like to. And then with this one I've chose to pinch some of them up and round some of them, so we've got that sort of different texture and heights going on between them, but it just gives you a nice idea of how that could look. This is using our romantic red elite cardstock and our gold mirror card, and then of course on this one we've got our heritage green brought into that one as well. Now, of course, you can use these on your cards too, and this is a lovely example done by Lynn. Lynn's used our pinstripe stencil in the reverse here. She's used our stripe line die to go around and create this frame, and then she's built up, of course, in the middle here with the elegant poinsettia petals, and this time she's chosen not to back them, so they're all left open, and I think that looks really pretty. You'll also notice the holly coming into this one. That, of course, is coming up in one of our sets shortly, as well as the Merry Christmas you can see on the top here. Now, another one I chose to do was actually decorating one of our large MDF tags. I've really got into playing around with these tags and making these sort of cool Christmas decorations, whether you use them as home decor for Christmas, whether you hang them on the tree, whether you wish to add them to a present, the choice is yours. I too have used the pinstripe stencil in the reverse here, and then I've just done a bit of aging techniques to actually bring this panel down with some of our gilded waxes and bits like that. On the top and the bottom, you'll also see the Holly Jolly corner. We'll get onto that one shortly. But of course, our flower here, of course, is made from the elegant poinsettia petals. And once again, I've chose to leave that as open work so that you can see through it. I've once again used the foliage set for the holly and the berries going in behind it, just to build that scene up and build that with a bit more sort of gravitas around that tag. Now, Ian chose to take these and cut them into his card and turn them into more like Christmas trees by adding little plant pots at the bottom of them, and also adding on a Merry Christmas to it as well. So again, think about the other ways in which you'll be able to use this set. Using them to cut in and create with as well is a great idea. Now, I'll show you a couple more examples of that set towards the end of this video, but it hopefully gives you a bit of inspiration of what you could be achieving. We can then move on to this one. This is our Christmas scene set. Now in this set we receive 3 dies. We've got the sort of forest line, we've got the building line or the skyline line, and then we of course have got our Father Christmas and reindeers ready to build that scene up into the sort of complete project instead of just having the lower pieces. Now the cool bit with these dies is that they don't have edges on 3 sides of them. So if you actually look at the die here, there's no die blade running around these sides of the trees or across the base. And this gives you the choice to pick where you would like to put them and how deep you want the cutouts to be. So for instance, you can choose to have a lot larger area underneath here. And of course, we've got some stencils that I'm going to introduce you to in a second that would work perfectly to infill that area. Or you can trim them thinner if you wish to. And of course, you can then choose to extend them because they don't have ends to the dies. If you wish to marry them up and continue them on, very easy to do, and it means you can make borders for your scrapbook pages. You could use them to go around the edges of your crackers. If you'd like to actually take your card blank and cut into the front of your card blank, you could do that as well, because as you can see, these are going to stay attached like an edgeable. So it gives you just more options in how you can work with them and what you can create with them. When we bring them together, of course, we can build up these little scenes like you see here. And of course, we can add in our Father Christmas flying through above the rooftops just to complete that scene. Now, I did mention that we had a matching stencil set to this one. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that in now because I'd like you to see that too. And then you'll be able to see them throughout the examples. So our scene building stencil set actually has 2 different sizes in here of stencils. And let's dig so I can show you this. These are the different pieces that you will actually receive. So you've got small buildings, and these are actually smaller than the dies. So if I bring this in so you can see this here, that is a more focused in version. giving you the ability to take that and put that underneath the die cut here if you wish to, or possibly stencil it behind. We then have larger buildings, so it actually gives you 3 different sizes of buildings to work throughout your project. We then have the trees, and once again, the trees here are smaller and larger in the stencil format to what the die does, giving you more options to build up again behind it and in front of it. Not only with these can you use them to stencil, these 4 strips could also be used in your machine with a rubber or a tan mat and sent through to emboss into your cardstock or deboss into your cardstock, and that makes a really lovely effect. Now with this set as well, you're also going to receive the negatives as such, the frames that go around the edges of the cuts. And these are great because if you want to bring in some colour and add over the top there, you're going to be able to create this forest and then build up in front of it with your dies. Now, one side of these negative frames as such, we have got our forest, and if we flip this round, you'll be able to see on the other side we have got our skyline. So once again, it gives you that option to build these up and create more scenes with them. And when we bring in the dies and the stencils and get creative, we can have so much fun with them. So if we look at this tag, for instance, we can see again one of our MDF tags, and towards the bottom here I have stenciled on a couple of lines of trees, and then I've cut our buildings and layered that around the base here. I've also, of course, brought in Santa and the reindeers flying through the sky to complete that image. Now there's enough room on here, you might want to stamp a sentiment, you might want to build up more down here with some of the different die cuts, but to me I really like that quite plain and simple. Then of course we can take these onto our cards as well. So here again what I've done is just worked in one shade of blue and white ink, and I've used the frame piece to actually build in my trees. I've then taken the cuts from these. Now let me just bring this back. I've brought this part in and I've placed it over the top of the part I had created using the frame and brought white ink down to there instead, just giving you that sort of snowy feel above the trees and more intense colouring on the trees. Then using softer shades, I've done more forest underneath there and then added on the die cut of the buildings below that. So it really just shows you how you can build up your scenes by playing around between the stencils and the die cuts. And of course, we've then got Santa flying through above that vision as well. Now, just to give you a slightly different idea, working once again with the stencils to create the forest below, the dies have come in to create our little skyline, and then of course Father Christmas going through the top. This is all done on top of our night sky navy cardstock, and I've just used a white gel pen to go in and dot in and add the snow. For the buildings, if you would like to put lights on or colour behind the apertures of the windows, the tip here is when you cut your die, take your die cut and place on top the first colour of card you would like, so in this instance black card, and then place on top the colour that you would like for your windows to be shown in, so in this instance white card. So you've got black card and white card. If you send that through your machine, 9 out of 10 times, the first cut, the black one, will cut perfectly brilliantly. It will be perfect to use. The white one will cut the more basic piece, which is the line running across the top here, but the filigree piece, which is the windows, will actually stay intact. And it means that you can then stick the white panel behind the black one to get your windows shining through. And this is a great tip for you to use with virtually all brands of dies in virtually all styles of machines. It just means that you've got that sort of engraved effect running on your second cut and your perfect cut on your first one. And it can be really handy to create some great effects with all sorts of dies, not just mine. Now, moving on to a few more samples with the dies. So let's have a little look at this one. So this one's bringing in our snow stencil. Now, I haven't introduced this to you yet. So let's bring in our snow stencil because it does work really well with this set. This is our Snow Flurry 8x8 stencil, and I purposely designed this one to have all different sort of fragments of snow falling, because snow does fall in different sort of size particles, doesn't it? And I really wanted that to not be a uniform dot of snow that looked like a polka dot. So instead it's falling snow, giving you all these different size pieces. Work with this with your misters, with your white inks, with your texture pastes. All different mediums could work through this. Or of course, once again, pop on top your rubber mat, send it through your machine and emboss it to make a really cool snow background. Now in this card, I've chose to use it with some texture paste that we actually have coming up. We haven't released it yet, but keep an eye out. It's only a few weeks away and there will be a brand new glittery texture paste coming your way. Now on this one, not only have I double stacked my Father Christmas and reindeers, I've also built up the buildings at the bottom, and I've also brought in our frosty snowflake corners that we'll be having a little look at shortly. Now, another idea for your dies, once you've cut them and you've got your strips, is to add on top a circle die, and that will just round them off to create this style instead. Working with different depths, because we've got that ability, you can then build these up and create these cool scenes. And to me, this actually looks like I've bought a completely different set of dies and added this on instead of working with the same set we've been looking at. This too could be added with a little string to make baubles and different hanging decorations if you wish to. But to me, it's a really fun way to work them. I've actually used the postage edge and the straight edge, which is coming up in one of our circle sentiments. So again, with the whole bundle, you're going to have the choices to work between them to create these styles of effects. Now, this is a cool card created by Lynn Lewis, one of our lovely design team members. And you can see here how she has stacked her buildings. She's actually brought this one out, so it's slightly raised and sort of curved on the front here. She's added on some sort of glitter glues to create some snow effects. And she's layered her buildings in different colours. We've got some of our pebble grey cardstock. We've got our sunbeam yellow for the windows. We've got our raven black and our heritage green, all stacked up to create these really cool sort of scene vibe. And then, of course, adding in our Father Christmas flying through the top there, and our Happy Christmas, which is coming up on one of our circle sentiments. Moving on again, just layering this time some die cuts with some stenciling. Very simple small card. Bringing in another MDF tag this time, and this is one that I did. And I really like this background. It's actually working with one of our stencils, and the name's escaped me at the second, but it's got big squares all across it, and I've just taken the squares, turned them sort of into a diamond shape, and gone through them with a couple of different inks to create this sort of checkerboard effect or tartan style. Across the bottom here, we have got our flying little Santa and reindeers, and then I've got some stacked trees and buildings with a little line of snow going across the bottom of that to complete that tag. Now, of course, when we're talking about the MDF tags, they come in several different sizes. So this is one of the larger ones, but there are also smaller ones available. And with this one, I've coloured it blue. I've used our lovely snow flurry stencil, gone over that with some white ink to make the snow fall in. I've built up the trees and the buildings at the bottom here, and I've also added on one of our frosty snowflake corners to the top before adding through some ribbon. Very easy to do, but hopefully very effective. Now, of course, once we're building our scenes, and we mentioned earlier cutting them out with a circle, there's no reason why we can't put them inside our frames as well. So this is a frame I've created using the outside edges of one of our circle sentiments we'll look at shortly. And I've sunk inside our buildings, and I've also used that same snow flurry stencil with some white ink to go over the raven black card to make the background. And then, of course, built up again, adding on my flying sort of reindeers and Father Christmas. Now, this is a card created by Ian, and I absolutely love this. This is probably one of my favourites that I've seen. I really, really like this. It's clean and crisp and simple, but yet very elegant, and got that sort of wonderful joy of Christmas summed up all in one project. And Ian has taken the circle from the circle sentiments and added some colour into it, double stacked our reindeers and Father Christmas, and double stacked our trees, all on one of our inkable foilables, which work really nicely once layered with our mirror cards and our raven black card too. Now, moving on to our next die set, let's introduce you to our foliage set. Now, this is our festive foliage set. Now, this is a really cool set because I wanted it to be quite large. I wanted it to work with the petal set, and I also want it to work with the classic poinsettia I'll be introducing you to shortly. Now, in this one, we have got our lovely holly sort of branch, we've got our berries part, we've got our sort of fern, and we've got our holly panel. Now, the holly panel comes in two parts. So again, you can cut your backing plates to go behind it, and then we've got our berries as well. And on similar to several of the dies, you're also going to notice that on several of them, we've got our deboss elements that hopefully you can pick up on here that give you that ability to go in and ink over the top or add in colour easily. Now, there's actually 6 die sets in this one, or 6 dies in this one set, giving you lots of options to play around and build up. And as I say, this works perfectly with the petal set and the classic poinsettia that's coming up shortly. So when we start building this up, this is working with the classic poinsettia, bringing in our holly and our ferns. Again, we've got our Merry Christmas circle sentiment that's coming up shortly. Another one here, very similar to that one, but I've cut it from our heritage green cardstock, and I've gone over it with some white ink to give it that sort of frosty effect. I've also used our romantic red for the berries and just 3D'd them. We've also then got our Happy Christmas used in the middle, again in one of our frames. Now, sticking with our frames and of course our foliage, this time I've brought in our foliage. I've coloured this and then I've added on quite a bit of our texture paste which is coming. I've been experimenting with that and getting ready, so I've got examples to share with you when that arrives, and this is just one of them. We've also got our classic poinsettia that's coming up, and of course our Happy Christmas, once again cut into one of our foilable frames. Now Ian's done this card and I really like this, that sort of white on white effect with that little pop of gold in the layers and the wording, but he's just built up all the different branches and sort of made this scene, and I thought that worked really nicely. Lynn's gone on in a different direction and taken the holly leaves and snipped them off of the branch and built them up into these little sort of focal points either side of her sentiment. Ian once again has brought them in with the poinsettias that are coming up and added them actually out of some vellum and cut them out of vellum and done some colouring techniques on those, and I think that looks really pretty and very frosty. Another one that Lynn's done here, again teaming this with the classic poinsettia that's coming up, you'll also see in the background our snow flurry stencil has been embossed, and you can see that the way she's built that up is just really pretty and delicate out of our gold mirror card. And then another one that I've done here, again bringing in our coming up poinsettia mixed in with our Happy Christmas. I've also embossed the snow onto the gold mirror card in the background, and of course with our holly branch, once again I'm teasing you a little, but I've been using that texture paste to colour that as well as some ink pads, just to give you some different ideas on what you're going to be able to achieve by building that one up. Now I think next we should introduce you to the classic poinsettia, because we've seen an awful lot of that come through on those samples, so it'll be nice to share with you that set, and it of course works so nicely with the foliage set. So this is our classic poinsettia. Now this is a one die set, and by that I mean it's all on one plate. You're actually going to cut 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different elements. Got a little gem here that's escaped. So hitchhiking on my packaging, let's get rid of that. But it's going to cut 7 elements and give you all of these different debossed effects on them as well. So when that goes through your machine, not only is it going to cut, it's going to deboss to make these cool patterns on your cuts. Hopefully you can see that okay on the board here, but they're really pretty. They're great for going in and adding inks to, or highlighting with texture paste and bits like that, or gilding polishes to really highlight that texture. Now what I also like about this set is our large poinsettia one here. This one has a little star on it. Now of course you could use that all year, it doesn't have to just be for Christmas. But actually if stars are something you don't like to use all year through, then all of the other panels here, or petals or flowers, these all just have very general patterns debossed into them. So I'm sure you could use these throughout the year in different colours to create different styles and ideas. You'll also find with the central piece here that I've debossed onto these little dots. So if you want to go in with your 3D pearls, your glitter glues, or 3mm gems, they will fit on here and give you the perfect sparkly centerpiece to your flowers. Now if I bring back in the festive foliage, hopefully once again you can see just how well they're going to work together. Size wise, they're that lovely middle point between this one and the large petals, so it's all going to work together perfectly to build up those scenes like you see on a few of the cards that I shared with you a moment ago. Now then, let's have a little look through the samples for this one to give you an idea. So here's one Lynn's created, working with just pearly white card to create this beautiful little poinsettia on this really small card. I think this is about a 4x4 to give you an idea. So again, it doesn't have to be really large cards if you don't want them to be. Now I love taking my dies into scrapbooking. I'm a scrapbooker at heart, and I love to at least do 1 page per collection for all of my fellow scrapbookers to hopefully have a little bit of inspiration. So this one's obviously a bumpy page because these are quite deep. You don't have to 3D them if you don't wish to, but I chose to for my page. I've inked with just some distress ink to pick up that texture using a blending brush because it highlights beautifully the deboss effect that are on the petals here. I've also added in the foliage. You will also see the holly jolly corners and one of the sentiment panels as well, bringing all of this together using our polar white card, our raven black, and our night sky navy, as well as of course our silver mirror card, but just to show you how you can take this through all different types of paper craft. Now this one has been created by Lynn, I believe, showing you how you can create lovely pearly effects once again in your white work cards, and she's built in our flowers around the side here, working with the different styles of poinsettias found within this set, adding in the foliage, and of course using our frosty corners as well as our Happy Christmas. Now another card that I've created, this time using the Romantic Red and the Heritage Green cardstock for my flowers, also bringing in the foliage and of course our Merry Christmas sentiment in the middle. Now I mentioned inking these and colouring them. This is one of the cards I've created using some distress inks and then going over the top with some gilding polish to really highlight and accentuate that design. Now once again we've got the classic poinsettia, we've got the foliage and we've got the Christmas tree, which I haven't yet introduced you to, but is coming up next. Anyone would think I'd planned that, and I hadn't. But we'll bring in our Christmas tree to share with you. So this one is our opulent Christmas tree. Now, like the Sings, this one does also have some matching stencils, and I'll bring them in for you shortly. But this is a one die set, so one pass through your machine is going to cut out this beautiful tree. Now, when I mentioned in the middle of the poinsettia, that little central part had got engraved or indented marks on it for 3mm gems, so is our Christmas tree. So anytime you see these little dots, they are all going to deboss for you, and you're going to be able to go in and add your 3mm gems on there. You could colour them, you could bring in glitter glues, 3D pearls, anything you would like to just accentuate that design. Now what was important to me with this tree is that it's perfectly symmetrical. So if you would like to build it up, and I'll show you some larger projects at the end of the video where I've done this, but if you would like to build this up and turn them into hanging decorations, centres for exploding boxes, box toppers, or all different shapes and bits like that, you can do. Now when I bring in the board, this will give you a little bit of an idea about what I mean about using this as 3D. This is really simple, it's just folding down the middle and then adding 3 together to bring in this dimensional tree. What's quite nice is it will go relatively flat for posting, and then again can be built up once the recipient takes it out of the envelope if it's a card you're planning to do with it. The tree once again has quite a few deboss marks on it, so if you would like to add in some little decorations to these swishes and swirls, you absolutely can do. The star is also debossed, and there is also a little filigree piece on the sort of trunk of the tree too that can also be decorated quite easily. Now Lynn chose to turn hers into this little hanging decoration covered in sparkly gems, and I think that works really nicely, and I could certainly see these hanging from garlands or Christmas trees to make some really lovely little decorations this festive season. And I also think they might be quite nice to make with the grandchildren or your children, because they're just a really easy way to do. As you may be able to see, Lynn's cut 4 of these, folded them up just like we have here, and then stuck them back to back. Because it's a symmetrical shape, there's no reason why you can't back them all the way around to make these really cool shapes. And of course you can choose to add in more if you would like a more filled in effect as well. Now with this design, I also found it a really lovely one to add on to our MDF tags. So again, I've coloured the back of the tag with some red ink. I've added on my tree, I've gone in with some gilding polishes, I've gone round the edge with some white ink to just bring it down slightly, and I've added on some sort of gunmetal pearls as decorations around the tree too. Ian's done this one, and I thought this was really lovely, working just in silver and white and adding little gems onto the top tree to give that little hint of sparkle. Also adding in the background or sort of focal points of the corners is our holly jolly corners, and I think the design of the corners works really nicely with the swirls and delicateness you can see on the tree. Now, not all of the time do we have loads of time to make our Christmas cards, so actually simple cards can be really lovely to do too. So this time all I've done is taken some Raven Black cardstock, layered it on some Polar White and our gold mirror card, and I've added some white dots for the snow, cut in gold mirror card my tree and added it on, and finished it off with a ribbon and a few pearls. Very, very easy to do, but hopefully relatively effective. Now, if you do wish to put a little bit more time into them, then of course we can bring that in, we can fold that up. I've added a little bit of ink over our Heritage Green cardstock, and I've added lots and lots of gold pearls to this one to finish it off. And I've also added in our Merry Christmas sentiment, which is coming up shortly. Just to give you a slightly different version, this one hasn't been inked, so it's just Heritage Green cardstock on its own and with white pearls instead. And I think that really makes a difference, doesn't it? Seeing it with white pearls and coloured gems. So you can sort of see whether you prefer to go, in my mind, slightly more elegant with the pearls or more sparkly and possibly a little bit more festive with the gems. It's just a different way to dress them up, but very similar cards to give you different ideas on how that's going to work for you. Then moving on, let's have a little look at these. Now these I love. These are, and this is a big board, and I'll try and get it all in so you can see it. This is our Frosty Snowflake corners. Now these dies are, I feel, some of the most versatile dies I've ever created, because what we have here is we have an outside edge. This is completely separate, so it's more a bonus to the set really. Anytime I can, I feel if I add these little bonus extras in for you, if you wish to use them with the set, you can do, but of course you can use it completely on its own. You'll also notice that this postage style edge will match in with one of the sentiments that we're going to be looking at shortly, so that that will work together for you as well. Then we have what I class as the X die. Now this is this one in the middle here. This part here houses all 4 of our individual delicate panels. Now if you choose to cut those 5 dies together, you're going to receive these delicate cutouts. If you wish to just use this X die on its own, without the panels in the middle of it, then you're going to receive these solid panels, which you can then layer together to create this style across the top. Now, if you prefer, the 4 panels for the corners can be used completely on their own, and they can be cut in and be left in your card. Now, whether you choose to use that with the postage stamp edge, or whether you wish to make them into borders or backgrounds, is completely up to you. The postage stamp edge is also shown on the board here, just so you can see how you can cut that out and use that on its own if you wish to. These will also tie up with our line die as well that come out in the first release, the Essential Die Collection. So if you wish to extend down and join up your corners, that straight line die will infill those pieces to make a complete frame style. Then when we start bringing in our cards, you can see here this little strip. I've cut that into our Night Sky Navy card here, just to show you how that would work. I've sunk into the little openings some gems beneath them, and I've added on our Happy Christmas to finish that one off. Moving on to our next card, this time it's showing you how you could take the panels, so these panels across the top, join them back together and actually create a focal point for your card. It's also showing you the corners cut into the square in the background here to make that panel. And then I've just added on a few extra dimensional pearls and gems to finish that one off. Moving on to a slightly bigger idea. So again, taking our same idea that you can see here, but if you just take 3 of them, put them together and cut that on all 4 sides of your card, this is the effect you're going to receive. So it looks like we've used a much larger, much more expensive die set than we have. And it looks like that would just be sort of a one-trick pony that creates that. But actually it's these 3 pieces, just low tack tape together, cut once, twice, 3 times, 4 times to create this backing panel. I've then built up with our classic poinsettias and added the Happy Christmas into the centre of that one. Then you see this card earlier, but it's nice to see it again with the corners being more highlighted. This, of course, is the corner elements that we've added on to go with our lovely scene set that you see earlier on. Now, we didn't just do 1 set of corners in this release, we have 2 sets for you. And our next one is the Jolly Holly corners. Now this works in exactly the same way as the one we were just looking at. So we've got our 4 intricate panels, we've got our X die, and we've got that cool decal edge outside die. Now once again, I've sort of tried to up the ante as much as I can and give you a different edge. So this is our sort of fluted edge die. Now I mention this because not only do these coordinate with the sentiments that you're going to be seeing next, these edges will also be featuring in future collections too. I've got lots of plans for these edges, so it's quite nice for you to know that once you've got this panel, there's going to be more of those designs coming forward in the future too to all work together. Now, just like the last set we looked at, we can cut these in to create these styles of corners, we can cut the backing plates, we can build them up, and we can leave them to stay in our cardstock. And of course, we've got that same matching panel idea that you can then choose to cut into or use for another project. Now, when we bring in some samples with our Jolly Holly corners, now very much like that first card I show you with the frosty snowflakes, I've just cut that strip into my cardstock, added on a couple of the poinsettias and a bit of the foliage to finish that off, this time putting some gold mirror card below it to get that shimmer coming through from underneath the die cuts. Now these corners work in so many ways, and I love using these corners with our Christmas tree. As I said earlier, I feel that the designs match very nicely and it really sort of helps accentuate that. Now again, using those cut-ins and building up a frame with them, exactly the same as when we looked at the snowflake one. This is just using 3 panels, low tack tape together and cut once, twice, 3 times, 4 times to make that backing panel. I've once again used the sentiment to go over the centre. I've used the classic poinsettia and the foliage just to build up my little scene around the side here. Now Lynn's done something really lovely for this example, where she's cut the top parts with these out of the heritage green, and she's used the X dye to cut out the romantic red to go beneath them. She's used the foliage around the centre and then added in her Merry Christmas to the middle of that one. Now this is something I love doing with our corner dies, and that is making multi-fold cards. So this is using one of our pebble grey cardstock card blanks, and all I have done is I have taken the card blank and I have scored it at 5, 10 and 15 centimetres. It's a 20 centimetre card blank, so that gives us 4 equal panels to work on. I've then just taken some sheets of pebble grey from our Elite card range and cut out panels to add onto here. If I remember rightly, I think this one's 10 centimetres and that one's 7 centimetres, but you can really yo-yo about with your sizes. I've then just chose to decorate the panels. So of course I've used my corners, I've used the panel under here to be cut out of the same pebble grey and then layered up my shades on top, and I've done the same for the next diamond down, bringing in our scene set to build up as our focal point on here. And then onto our last panel, I've brought in our Merry Christmas and I've added that on here. Now it's up to you whether you choose to leave the berries open and let the romantic red card shine through, or add on some more little gems like I have on the corners. But this is a really simple and effective card that once again folds down relatively flat. You might wish to pop it in a box or a padded envelope, but it's quite a lovely way to build up and create some really lovely cards. Then onto this one, again using our tree with our corners. This time I've cut from the heritage green cardstock. I've added a little bit of our green texture base that's coming up shortly over the top to add on a bit of a sparkle, and I've gone in with multicoloured gems to add on all the dimensions to the trees, sticking to the red pearls to go into the corners for our lovely holly jolly corner finishing touches to our berries on our holly. Then just 2 more dies to share with you, but before we do that, I did mention that I would share with you our Christmas tree stencils and then promptly forgot. So let's bring those in before I forget about them again. This is our opulent tree set of stencils. Now I've got these out of the packet so I can share them with you slightly better than you can see them in here. Now this set, as you can see, is very much designed to coordinate with our Christmas tree. It's the same style of die or design as our die, but this time brought to you in a stencil format. Now what we have in the set is 3 different sizes. The middle size isn't exactly, but it's very close to the die size. And then we have a smaller and a larger. Now, of course, we could have just given you the die cut or the actual stencil cut as such in the 3 sizes, but I really wanted you to have as many options as you could. So I've also given you the outside edges. So that means that you not only have the focal tree, as you can see it here, but you've got these plates as well. Now this is really handy because it means that we can bring this onto our project. We can put through one colour of ink or paste or polish or whatever you wish to work with. You can then take the stencil, pop that back in place and then colour over the top with another shade and build that up. It also means that you can take these outside edges and run them through your machines with a rubber mat or a tan mat and emboss that shape into your card. You can of course do exactly the same with the filigree tree as well. So it just gives you lots of options. It also means that when we bring in this tree die cut, we can do these trees in the background and then build forward with the die cuts, giving you more options to work between the dies and the stencils together. Now, if I show you a card quickly with that in mind, let's see if I can dig one of those out for you. Now, this one's a really lovely example of that. So here I've got the die cut in the middle. So this is the proper die. And then in the reverse here, I've used the smaller tree using not only the filigree panel, but the outside edge to create this 2-tone tree effect. So it just shows you how we can really bring them together and build them up. Now, a couple of different boards I wanted to share with you. This is using the 3 trees and embossing them in the machine, just so you can see that. So hopefully it's coming through okay. It's never easy to show white on camera, but it shows you how you can emboss those designs into your card wherever you might wish to and build up that really lovely sort of indentation style. This one here, again, very similar, but using just the outside frames instead. And this can be quite nice because you could then bring in your tree and colour that on the top, maybe with some texture base or polishes. You might wish to use your outside edge as well to protect the white area, but it gives you that little bump, that little raise that you're going to have created because you've 3D'd it. Now, I mentioned the die working in conjunction with the outside frame of the middle size. If you have a little look at this board here, this is showing you the die cut put on top of a coloured piece that I've done using this outside edge. And you'll notice that you get just a small halo of colour coming around the edge, which is sort of intentional because it just brings that design together. Of course, foam padding your die cut on top, you would lose that halo, but actually it's a really nice effect that you could create working with different colours between your backing plates and then die cutting and layering on top. Now, just a couple more boards to share with you with this one. This one again is a little demo I did where I show you that you could emboss this part, and then using your filigree panels you could then colour in your two tones and create some real depth to these. And it's just a really simple effect. This was just the one I created on the video, but actually when we take it into larger projects like this one, you can see I've used our texture paste for our snow stencil around the edges and added on some little crystals. This one I've done very similar, and I've added in some extra detail with a gold gel pen. And then another technique that we can do with these is what I class as letter pressing, really, with a stencil. And that means that you take the stencil, you cover it in ink with an ink pad or whatever medium you wish to, then send it through your machine with that rubber or tan mat, and the ink will transfer off of the stencil and onto the cardstock. And that will give you this sort of stamped, debossed effect that I've created here. Now, of course, these are also great for building up on our little tags. And once again, another little sample that I've created using that same letterpress example that I was just talking about, but working with our smaller tree, which again just gives you all of them different size options. And of course, you're going to once again receive all 3 sizes in one pack. So you're going to have lots of options on how you wish to play with them and what you would like to build up with them. Then we move on to our sentiments. Now, you've seen an awful lot of these used for our examples, but we'll start off by having a little look at our Happy Christmas sentiment circle. Now, with this one, you've received 3 dies. You have that outside edge postage stamp style. You then have a flat edge. You then have your filigree panel. Now, the filigree panel will actually stay in your cardstock unless you use that outside edge. If you use this one in conjunction with that one, you're going to be able to trim it out and use it as a separate item. You've then got that postage edge, which you can then use underneath that panel if you wish to. Or, of course, you can cut your Happy Christmas into that edge and have that wider style to it. You could then also use one of these circles to back behind it and have a different colour coming through if you wish to. So those 3 dies give you quite a lot of options. Now, again, the outside edge to this will, of course, coordinate and swap and be interchangeable with the Merry Christmas die, which is coming up. And it also works perfectly with the outside edges or the insides, depending on which way you wish to swap them, with the With Love and the Happy Birthday dies, which come out in the first release, in the first essential release collection. Now, just showing you a couple of cards. This one is actually using the edge which comes with a Merry Christmas, cutting that into our inked foilable panel, and then I've cut the Happy Christmas into our gold mirror card and layered that underneath to create this shadow box effect. I've then added some foliage and our poinsettias to finish that one off around the sides. Then moving on, showing you one built up on a tag. So we've got our Happy Christmas, once again using the edge from the Merry Christmas, built in here with our poinsettias and our foliage. We've also got some snow going on stenciled in the background onto one of our larger MDF tags. Then moving on to our last die, this is our Merry Christmas. So very similar idea, 3 dies in this set, once again giving you that filigree panel, that outside edge with this fluted style to it, and our solid circle, meaning once again we can layer them, we can leave them in our card, or we can cut them out to create this style. And as you see, you can use this edge with the Happy Christmas, with the With Love, or the Happy Birthday, or any of those edges with this set too, to give you as many possible options as we can. Then when we bring these into our projects, we can see here that I've used that Merry Christmas and I've layered this on top of a glittery panel, and I've layered it onto the fluted edge background on a tag with our snowflake corner. Now, these are also great for making little gift tags or really simple cards, little diddy cards if that's something you need to batch make this year. You can also turn them into baubles. So this is one that Lynn's done where she's hung it down on a little ribbon, added a bow and a couple of bits of holly at the bottom and the top here, just to really give that effect of a hanging bauble. Now, I too have used this as a hanging bauble style, not using that outside edge this time, just using that flat edge for the romantic red cut and the gold mirror cut. I've done this on one of our inked foilables, and you can see on the side here I've used our stencils with our Christmas tree set to create this really cool Christmas tree going down the side. Now that's all of the cards I wanted to share with you and all of the boards, but if you hold on 1 second, I'm going to swap the cameras around again and I'm going to show you some few 3D projects that I've created so you can hopefully see them slightly better. So as promised, just a few more of our larger projects to share with you to hopefully give you a little bit more inspiration. Now I'm going to start off with this project which Ian's created. Now this lovely 3D box is the perfect little gift box that we could be giving this festive season. Now on this, Ian has chosen to use the Holly Jolly corners to create the front panel here. He's also brought in the Merry Christmas and the foliage to decorate around that one. And this is working of course with our gold mirror, our romantic red elite cardstock and our raven black cardstock. Then moving on, here's a little box I've created. So again, I love the idea of giving gifts in lovely boxes. We can't always run to the most elaborate or expensive gifts, can we, for everybody in our world? But actually I feel putting it inside a lovely gift box like this really shows we care, we've thought about it, and we really wanted them to know that they were special. So I really love making gift boxes, especially when we're giving to people who, how do I word this, it's slightly, we love them, we care for them, but they're slightly more distant. Maybe I'm talking about your hairdressers, your postmen, your people in your life like that you want to know, you want to share that they're cared for, and you want to give them a gift, but you might not necessarily want to spend the world on it. So actually popping it into a box like this shows them that they mean a lot to you. It's the thought that counts, isn't it? And we have to remember that when giving gifts or receiving them. But I think showing them and giving them a box like this or similar can really show them just how much that thought really was there. So with this one, we've got the Merry Christmas element running around the sides of the boxes, really easy to create. And then on the top of it, I've gone in again with our petal trio, elegant poinsettia petals, I'll get there one day, elegant poinsettia petals to build up and create our incredible flower on the top here. Now again, that's on top of one of our inked foilable frames. Then we move on and we've got another one of those we've created with the same poinsettia set, but this time using our rose petal pink cardstock. And I've actually shaped this one slightly to give it a bit more dimension and depth. Around the edges of the box, you will also see that this time I've added some pink ribbons and I've also added our snowflake corners. It's a really simple decoration to create a really elegant looking box that's not too difficult to do. Then moving forward from there, let's bring in this box for you. This one is my Christmas tree box. So on the top here, I have a little 3D tree, and I'll show you how it's supported just in case you're wondering. On the inside of the lid, I've used a cotton earbud, and I've taken the cotton earbud and I've trimmed the top of it off. I've poked a hole in the box lid and I've inserted that in through the box, and then of course left the cotton bud on the bottom here so that I've got no fear of that going through and falling off. So it's nice and supported, but it can still move a little bit, and I didn't have to add on any glue guns or any sort of clumpy glue to hold it in place. The tree itself is a bit like the one I held up that Lynn had done earlier, where I've stuck them back to back and added some coloured pearls all the way around it to make my little lights. On the top of it, I've also used the Holly Jolly corners, and then when I bring in the rest of the box for you to see, you'll see the same corners have been used all the way around the box, with again our Merry Christmas sentiment to finish that off. And this is working again with our polar white card, our heritage green and our silver mirror. And then the last two I wanted to share with you, this is about our tower cards. Now you may have already seen the videos of our tower cards. I started off by creating a square tower card, and this is my Christmas version as such. We started these back with the Essential collection of dies that come out last month, but this is a card fold which is going to work for any season or reason, and I wanted to share that with you for our festive collection. So I'm going to bring that in for you to hopefully see the texture that's coming through here on our poinsettias, and of course our foliage. And I've supported this with just a little bar of card behind going from the top panel to the bottom, and then added on all of my flowers and actually built them up so they're quite prominent and quite 3D. But the actual card will fold down flattish, so it can go into a box or an envelope if you wish to. In the middle, I've used our little sentiment. This time I've used the Merry Christmas, and again I've used the fluted edge that comes within those squares. If you'd like to see how to create this one, do look out for that video. Of course, that is the tower card. And then lastly, That idea sparked off the idea of taking that concept into different shapes. So I created for my Christmas collection the hexagonal tower card, and that is this one here. Once again, it's going to fold down relatively flat for you to post it or give it if you wish to, but once your recipient has received it, you can stand it up as a 3D object, and then in the background we of course have got our Christmas trees, and on the front there we've got our Merry Christmas, working once again with the romantic red, the heritage green and the gold mirri. It just creates a scene that is really pretty and very easy to create. And once again, there is a video for this one. It's sort of a top-up video. It gives you what you need to know how to make this, but it really does build on from what I taught you in this video. So as a starting point, start off with the square tower card video and move on to the hexagonal one, and it will hopefully give you that inspiration and knowledge you need to go through and make those. Now that was all of the inspiration we have so far created here at Jamie Rodgers Crafts between me and our incredible design team, and I'm hoping that that's give you some inspiration on what you could be creating. Now don't forget there are 9 die sets, there are then 3 stencil sets as well, and they are all currently available from your favourite Jamie Rodgers Crafts stockist. If you don't have a favourite stockist yet, then do pop onto the jamierodgerscrafts.com website, and there is a stockist section where you can go and have a little look for your favourite stockist. We are adding new stockists literally every day, and I can tell you that they will soon be appearing on a more global scale. So if you are from another country and you're watching this, of course we're here based in the UK, but do once again check out that stockist guide, because as soon as they're on board, we will be adding all of our international stockists to that list as well, so that you can see them too. Now, thank you very much for watching today's video. Please let me know in the comments if you have any questions, what you think of the Christmas collection, what you've got planned, what are you thinking when you know, I've gone through these boxes and 3D creations with you. Have you been sat there thinking, I really want to make X with this, I really want to make Y with this? Then please let me know in the comments. And lastly, don't forget, if you are watching this video and it's been shared by one of our stockists, hopefully they've popped in the description all of the links to their website or their store for you to be able to go and get your hands on these products. Please do support our stockists. And once again, any questions, let me know. I can't wait to see you all again very soon. Thank you for watching today. Bye for now.